Bird, 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 bird. Yeah! Ron Babe was right. Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. It is the 20th of February. That's right, February. There's 2 R's in it. I never have pronounced it right. You know what else there's 2 R's in? Patreon patrons, my number one sponsor. Don't forget, this week there'll be a Zoom room. I will fill you in on all the antics and all the name dropping and all the unbelievable stuff that I saw, witnessed, participated in at Brays Island when I was there last week. Wow, what a place. If you've never heard of it, check it out. Google it. I'm surprised they let me in, honest to God. It was something else. But you know what else is something else? Matt Ranella came over to the podcast studio, aka Kennel, yesterday. He brought his little dog Shifty, and we recorded a podcast. Because for those of you who don't know who Matt Ranella is, you can guess by the last name. The older, better-looking brother to one of the older, better-looking brothers to Steve Ranella. Anyway, he came over and we recorded a podcast. And that's going to be coming out soon. And then we recorded an extra podcast just for those HDP Talk fans. Yeah, that one's dicey. I mean, they're all dicey. I mean, Matt's got an opinion and an agenda that he's trying to get the word out on. You're going to get all that information from, well, I guess you could say I'm announcing it, okay? He is going to launch a podcast, and it's called Hunt Quietly. Hunt Quietly. You can even go to huntquietly.org and you can hear a little intro that he recorded, and you can link to some articles he's written. But he is a one-man voice in the wilderness, and he'll tell you whether it's a good voice or a bad voice. He can tell you one thing: it's his own voice. Anyway, that's going to be something to look forward to. I told him I'll tune into every episode just to hear the keys click. I will. Pike gear, I was rocking that at Brays Plantation, so that was the one part of me that fit in at Brays Plantation. Like, well, you know what? He drove a Dodge, but he's wearing some good-looking hunting clothes. And if you want to see some technical hunting clothes that are, I don't want to say classy, but they look good, too. They don't look frumpy. Nobody wants to look frumpy. Anyway, if you're Pike gear curious, come to Pheasant Fest. Brent will be there with the whole crew. All of his clothes, pants, shirts, jackets, socks, everything except the underwears. Kind of like Walton's. Walton's will be at Pheasant Fest too. They'll have everything again, but the meats. Although at Pheasant Fest, Walton's will have the meats. They're going to be doing the cooking stage at Pheasant Fest. They are. You're going to love it. Spend some time there. See all the stuff you can find. Turn your game preparation. Pick it up a notch. You know what I mean? Onyx, now, I don't know what you could do to pick up your navigation skills a notch. If you've got Onyx, you know where you've been, you've set a pin, you've shared it with friends. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Onyx is the number one mapping for hunting, fishing, kayaking, whatever you want to do outdoors. Onyx has got you covered. Boss Shotgun Shells has got you covered with any kind of shell you need. Any gauge, you know, I mean, right down to 410, and they're all copper-plated bismuth. Get on the wagon, okay? Well, I'm not saying you. No, you're taking me wrong. I don't want you to get on the wagon because no one's going to join you there in this show. Get on the non-tox wagon. When you go hunting next year, just get yourself some Boss ammo and find out this stuff shoots and kills like lead. Copper-plated bismuth from Boss. And Boss will be at the Hunting Dog Podcast booth with their own booth right connected in the little village that we have. So if you really want to talk ballistics and stuff, come to see the guys at Boss at Pheasant Fest. They love talking about their product. And who could blame them? Who could blame them? Purine will be there. They'll be there with the biggest part of the whole Pheasant Fest is the bird dog stage. And they'll have trainers up there, seminars, Purina reps, you can ask them all the questions. You can say, what did I hear about this? What about that? What if my dog's got this? What if yours? Yeah, they will be there for the entire 3 days. Look for somebody with a black shirt on that says Purina, and I'll guarantee you can get your answers from them. Gunner Kennels will not be there in staff, but they will be in my booth. I got some new kennels from them. Those kennels are going to be given away on Sunday, so make sure you stop by and put your name in the drawing. And what we're using for the drawing is a Gunner Kennel food crate. It's guaranteed to last just like the Gunner Kennels are. You can see what it's all about when you come and see me. Or just walk by. You don't have to say hi. You can just kind of sneak by and don't say anything and just look and see how the door closes on the Gunner Kennel. Like, wow, that's cool. Wow, that's cool. Oh, there's Ron. I don't want to talk to him. That's fine. Just come on out and see the kennels. Glad to have them there. Garmin wants me to share this with you. I just got this email from Rayhan, and something new. They haven't put out a new collar since, let me see here. Here we go. They just came out with the TT15X and T5X track and train collars. It's the first new GPS collars we've announced since the Mini TT in 2015. And here's the deal. The TT15X and T5X, the battery life is up to 80 hours. Twice the life of previous dog collar devices. Twice. 80 hours. So that's got to cut your chances in half of getting your dog out there and going, I didn't charge the collar. Trust me. I mean, that's worth the price of changing, you know. So when you're looking at your next Garmin purchase, because I know you are, look at the TTX15X and the TT15X and the T5X. And they work with all compatible navigation devices through Garmin, the Alpha 10, Alpha 100, Alpha 200i, Astro 430, 550 Plus, all that stuff. They're not like Apple. They're not going to make something that doesn't work with the rest of your cables, cords, and collars. So anyway, and they will track a dog and train a dog up to 9 miles away. Come on. I might even call bullshit on that. No, it is. They wouldn't say it if they didn't mean it. And, yeah, check them out. That is new from Garmin. And possibly they'll have some literature at my booth. That'd be nice, okay? Canine Athlete, I will have samples of Canine Athlete at Pheasant Fest. I will have Hydrate and Recover. I'll have Wilderness Athlete samples. I'm not going to put them out there for the greedy, grubby everybody's, but I will have a supply of them come by and say, hey, Ron, do you have some? And I will give you some, all right? You can check out the Canine Athlete product line and some Wilderness Athlete product line while you're there. W Hunting Supply, still, just like the last time I told you, the best gun dog supply company on the globe. Say, I used to say in the country. I did some research. I had some people look it up. And I said, could you tell me if they're not only the best customer service in America, but the best customer service on the globe? And they came back to me like an hour later. Yep, we checked it out. W, the best customer service you can get for your hunting supplies. Deck drawer system. I just loaded. They talk about the deck drawer system being heavy duty, and you can put some weight on it. Well, let me tell you what I just put. When I went to Virginia after Nashville and then on to South Carolina, I had to get the house ready for some new flooring down there. And I have a gun safe, a large gun safe. And it took 3 men, a boy, and a half of almost call it a winch. But I got that safe on top of my deck system, under the cap of my truck. It was a miracle. And that safe is in there, and I mean, it's heavy, okay? It was so heavy and it's sitting so high on the profile, my truck was rocking down the road. But what didn't happen, I put I don't know how many pounds it is. It's heavy. And I just double-checked, and I opened and closed those drawers in and out just like there was nothing on top of it. That thing is built to take it. It's built to take you on your adventures. So check out the decked drawer system. Shooting Sportsman just came out with a brand new. I came home, and there's my brand new issue of Shooting Sportsman. Birds, guns, dogs, people, and places. That is why I do what I do, because of the guns, birds, dogs, people, and places. They got a great article. I was reading it last night on wilderness blue grouse. I just started reading the one about quail. I mean, come on. Just get yourself a Shooting Sportsman. And if you aren't training yet, you know it's coming soon, right? This winter is we're squeezing the cold out of this like a wet rag. We're finally squeezing winter out of our lives, and it's time to start training. Check out the Upland Institute and become a better trainer. You can check, if you haven't been there in a while, check out the testimonial page. We have some people that are known in the industry and some people that aren't known anywhere. And the resounding testimonial is, wow. Yeah, exactly. Just wow. Anyway, this episode is with Domenica. I think it's Domenica. It's so hard to say the Italian names. Orzi. Domenico Orzi. And born in Italy, spent time in South Africa, moved to this country, a resident of Brays Island. He's got pointers from South Africa. And I'm telling you, they don't look like they kind of look like our pointers. Very nice foot hunting dogs, very nice. I watched all three of his dogs hunting for us on one morning hunt. It almost made me pointer curious. Really. I mean, like foot hunter, pointer curious. Yeah. And after you hear this episode, if you are looking for one, he has got a litter. Well, I think there's 3. I saw 5. I think there's 4 left. Anyway, I told them that I would throw it out there after they hear this episode. Like, if you're interested, I could put you in touch with Dominique. I always want to say, it's not Dominic. It's Dominic. Oh, fuck. I can't do Italian. I can barely do German. Anyway, I hope you love this episode. What a character. He's been around the block in the bird dog world, the wing shooting around the world. This guy is one of the originals. He is. Here it comes. Love you guys. Love you girls. Love you girls more. And speaking of Pheasant Fest, which means I'm speaking of Pheasants Forever, obviously, they would like me to let you know, if you are a landowner, that the Conservation the Conservation Reserve Program, CRP, is now open for enrollment. It's the best thing to do with hard-to-farm acres. It will help improve the farm's profitability. It'll make you feel better about listening to pheasants and quail and everything else cackle in your backyard. Makes cleaner water, healthier soils. The CRP sign-up is going on right now through March 11th. You can either find your local Pheasants Quail Forever biologist at pheasantsforever.org/CRP or visit your local USDA service center. They'll know all about it. It's part of the Farm Bill. Farm the best and CRP the rest. Hey everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. I am in great grace. See that? I'm not even going to edit this out. I'm at Brays Island Plantation with Domenico Orzi, a newfound friend that I made last night over at beer at the restaurant, and got to hunt over 3 of his pointers this morning. And I'm just going to ask Domenico for give me a little rundown. Back it up, because you and I are kind of close. We're both baby boomers. We established that.
Yes.
We were both born after the big one, right? But
yes.
You weren't born here. You were born where?
I was born in Rome, Italy, in 1953, and I lived there, I would say, definitely a third of my life, and I discovered my passion in hunting when I was 6 years old. I was sitting on the balcony of my father's house with my little gun, dreaming to shoot birds when they were flying. And my first dog that my father actually got was, in fact, a German Shorthair when I was 6 years old. My father then organized a preserve with a friend, and we started hunting there, Hungarian partridges, mainly Hungarian partridges. Yeah. And that was my starting academia.
So did you see your dad walking off and leaving, and you wanted to go with
Believe it or not, my dad wasn't a hunter. Was very partially an hunter. And I was the guy that was born with this terrible passion of hunting.
So
and
no
I brought
brothers,
my
no
father,
dad?
I pushed my father to just go, into hunting.
Yeah, and he went for it.
And he went for it.
He went for it.
He went for it. And, and slowly I took over, and I took over his dogs. and that started my, my career as a hunter.
Right off the bat, I got to think, I'm trying to picture, so you're talking mid-late 50s here.
Right.
And, I think of, from my background with the Bracco and the Spinone, and where did they find a German Shorthair Pointer? I mean, was that a common breed that you would see around Italy?
Well, in Italy, at that time already, a lot of breeders, they started to actually crossbreed between Braccos and Pointers. And they created what they call it Bracco Pointer. They did that because they wanted to, the intention was to slow down the pointer speed, to make it a little bit more, I would say,
more foot hunting friendly.
Foot hunting friendly. And that was very in fashion. Now, I don't know if that was the right thing to do, because in the end of the day, I don't think the speed or the
lack thereof.
Right. It is training, it is the personality of the dog and the bond with the hunter. This is the most critical point.
Yeah.
But yes, so that was, in fact, and the German Shorthair was introduced, again, as an alternative to the crossbreed between pointers and Bracco Italiano.
Because they'd certainly been around.
I've been around.
I've always heard that, like, setters and pointers were bigger in Italy, like a more popular.
Yes and no. I would say that definitely setters, they were very popular, yes.
Yeah.
But this crossbreed between the Pointer and the Bracco was very, very popular.
Really?
Very popular, yes.
How come we don't hear anybody talk about that these days?
Well, because now, I would say
70 years ago.
Yeah, things are changing a lot. And then the Brittany came in a lot.
Really?
Yes, they did, because obviously, most of the Italians, especially Italian hunters, they didn't have the luxury to live in single houses. They were living in apartments. And the smaller dog was the answer for that.
So the passion's always been there. You just had to figure out how to work it with the living conditions.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you have family, like cousins and uncles or anything that hunted?
Yes. I have, in fact, a cousin that is actually a little bit older than me, that he was supposed to come and visit me here in Brays, by the way. And he was an avid hunter, and he had for a long time, he had a lot of Brittany's.
Okay.
But now I think it's the last dog is a setter.
Everybody ends up with a setter someday or another.
Well, setters addresses two things. He's a good hunter, but he's a very cute dog.
Yeah.
And ladies have a very big say in the choice of a dog.
Especially these days.
Absolutely.
Now, I'll bet when your dad got that dog and you were out there wanting to be out there, back in that day, mom took care of the house, dad took care of the dog choice, probably.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah, because we're both from that generation.
Yes.
And I'm going to make a big skip to where we're at today, but then I got to go back to Italy, and then I want to go to South Africa and everything else you've done. So we're at Brays. Chris Dorsey was a guest on my podcast this past year, and was, when I say gracious enough to invite me somewhere, everybody, you've already invited me to come back to your place.
Absolutely.
But this place is. It doesn't seem like it's on this planet, this Brays plantation, or Brays Island plantation. It's all a guy that loves dogs and guns and wide open spaces and fishing, and it was. How did you get here? And
well, before that, first of all, I'd like to thank Chris Dorsey and you to invite me and give me the possibility to spend time with you guys, show my dogs, which is great for me. It's a great opportunity. Regarding Brays, well, the story with Brays with me is that when I came to the United States, now over 22 years ago, I lived most of this time in California, where in the beginning, living in Los Angeles, California, it wasn't very easy to find my way.
Yeah.
I actually brought my dogs from South Africa through Italy, through America.
Wow.
I had 3 dogs. And
the same breed you're running now?
Same breed, but not the same stock.
Not the same family.
Not
line.
the same family,
Okay.
yes. And they were a little bit different for the dogs that I have now. And I'll come to that probably in a later stage of the conversation. But so California wasn't easy until I actually met a guy, and he's today my best friend. Is a retired orthopedic surgeon that actually worked in Ridgecrest, close to the Mojave Desert. For many years, and he had some connections. So we met because we were neighbors, and I looked his little French Brittany was running around the garden. I said, "Is that an hunting dog, this one?" And he said, "It's a matter of fact, it's supposed to be." And then I said, "But are you a hunter?" "Well, I used to." I said, "Okay. Now you're going to be my pal in that." And we started to go hunting with him. In the Mojave Desert, we did incredible hunting of chukars on the mountains.
Oh, really?
Yes, we did a lot of beautiful hunting. We actually did hunting so hard that we loaded our dogs with a backpack and then hike one day until reach altitude, camp in places where there was not one single spot that was flat. So it was a bit of a thing. But then, yes, we find really untouched territory. Wow. That was incredible. So California was that. But then at a certain point, a lot of conditions that became not really,
not
valuable,
conducive for a lifestyle.
Conducive to lifestyle. And I said, I got to find, I was on the point to retire and everything, and I said, okay, I'm going to find a spot that actually is going to be, bigger. It's going to be, create me the opportunity that I want to do for hunting. And I looked around, and I opened a magazine, and this Brays Island came about it. And I said, okay, looks good, because it's got a lot of stuff. And we spent 3 separate trips coming here.
Oh, okay.
To try to familiarize to the place, to understand exactly what the amenities and everything. And finally, we decided to pull the trigger, and we bought a house. And my friend, by the way, my neighbor friend, also bought a house. So now we are both here. We live here.
Do retired surgeons here too?
Yes.
That's not a bad story.
No, I think it's actually a very, very interesting story, isn't it?
It's kind of like you saw this guy with his French Brittany. Is it a hunting? And then he's like, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, I can make this into something.
It's exactly what happened.
And you had your pointers at that time.
And I had my pointers, yes. My pointers, they were not this pointer you saw today. They were definitely pretty much hard-headed a lot. And
more hard-headed.
Oh, yeah. And they were just not easy. And we were just starting to use this new electronic device, the Tritronic today. And I remember I didn't know that stuff. And I bought the first device was a little like a pet safe or kind of thing like that.
Yeah, cheap one.
So I went out in the fields with this dogs. I put it on, and this dog started to run, and I started to squeeze it. And this dogs disappear in the horizon. And they stayed out for 4 days, because that's only the 4 days I was able to recover this dog.
Wow. So whatever he thought that was,
and
he was. Oh, you didn't read the instructions, did you?
Well, exactly, probably. But anyway, when I got the dogs, there was a lady there training labs, and she now obviously understood the whole thing, because I was going up and down this place. And she said to me, "What are you using?" "Oh, no. You got to use the proper professional stuff."
Right.
And she put me on this Tritronic stuff.
Right.
That was the first version of that.
Yeah, before Garmin bought them. Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
And then I bought that, and things changed. Although, even, using quite a bit of electricity, when you have an art, dog, it's not a completely straightforward thing. But that was the thing. So I had these dogs, and then they, passed away one after the other.
Right,
and
right.
at that point, I went to South Africa for a just a visit, and I met with one of my best friends there. And I said, Mauro, I need a dog. I need a proper, you have to send me a super pup here. And Mauro said to me, give me some time. And after 1 year, he actually called me up and he said, I think I got a dog that could work. And he sent me this.
Now, I got to interrupt. Were you saying you wanted the same breed that you had?
Yes.
Okay, you weren't just saying, find me.
The thing is, I left Italy and I lived in South Africa over 20 years, and there obviously was a lot of adventures in the hunting world between big game and obviously upland game.
Yeah.
And then I started to get in touch and participate and join the South African field trials.
Okay.
Now, the field trials dogs, as you probably know, they are special dogs with very wide range.
Right.
Super fast, super wide. They are basically dedicated to that. I wanted more hunters, but it's easy to adjust when it's a pup to what you basically want if you have a dog that is a good mind dog.
Right.
And that was a story. So when I called Mauro, he knew exactly what I wanted, and he said, look, you can work on this pup.
Right.
And he sent me up this pup that was 3 months old. He arrived, and he was the starting point of my definitely best batch of dogs of my life. Yeah, I went through a lot of dogs. You can imagine. I had Setter, Spinoni, and
you said Spinoni.
Yes.
Oh, you actually owned one once. You didn't tell me that. Once.
Because we jumped already to the South Africa thing. But
I know.
My Italian experience started with Hungarian partridges, but then the woodcock hunting was another very important part of the season.
Oh, okay.
And in order to do that, I during the course of the years, I used different dogs. And the best dog that I had was a mix between Setter and Spinoni. Then I had a Spinoni, then I had a Setter, then I had a Golden Setter, then I had a few dogs at that time. But the combination, probably the best combination that I had was, in fact, Spinoni and Spinoni crossed with Setter.
Right, and then you're telling me early on that the Bracco was blood with it. I love how the fact that we're getting where we need to go with these dogs, right?
Probably before.
But a lot of people, I interviewed a fella, this is a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I interviewed a fella, I'm going to say last spring for lack of a better time, and he had bred wire hairs with his Brittany's.
Yeah.
And I said, accidentally? He says, the first time it was accidental.
Right.
And I think he's on his fourth litter. And I had more emails from people just their lights going like, oh, I knew that. They wanted his phone number. And I was like, all the stuff, all the people go through, and sometimes what's not planned or what is, what's not normal turns out to be fantastic.
The dog breeds are like when you decide to buy a car.
Yep.
It depends what kind of activity you want to have.
Right.
If you need a truck, if you need a smaller truck, a bigger truck, or a four-wheel drive, or whatever. So same thing applies to dogs. What kind of hunting you do? What kind of area you actually mainly hunt in?
Right.
It's a lot of combination. But beside the, I would say, attitudinal characteristic of the breed, then personality of the single subject is the bottom line.
Yeah.
And that is why when I got across to my actual now batch of dogs, and you hunted with my dogs, you saw them.
Yes.
The thing that probably comes immediately to your attention is that they don't need very much interaction or correction.
Right.
They look at you all the time,
Right.
and they understand from you what you want to do, the direction you want to take, the distance you want to have,
Right.
between your dog and yourself. Depends again on what kind of cover you're hunting and what kind of bird
Sure.
you're hunting. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of parameters that you put it in. So the breed is the base, but
Yeah.
then anything else becomes probably the most important point in
The
the
dog's
combination.
personality and what you did with it.
Correct.
Right. Because
Correct.
you admitted this morning that you had a little puppy in bed with you last night. And most people say,
Yes,
"A puppy?"
that's a different story.
That's
Now,
another, but
my
I
lady
think part
is
of-
is the
but I
faulty
think
one.
I've heard people say that if you want to, again, you could probably get a dog that isn't connected to you. And you
Yeah.
could probably put it in bed with you and he still isn't going to be. But I've heard a lot of people, it seems talk of it, like the more time you can be buddies and close, it's going to make that, they're going to be a little better connected to you.
Well, number one, in fact, when we met, the first thing that actually I noticed that you are definitely a dog man, and that was a big recognition
Right,
because we are a special breed.
Yeah.
Which is very important because that means that you are interested to interact with your dog. You are
Right.
interested to enjoy things together, and at the same time establish a combination of living things together with the dog. So
Yeah.
this is the thing that guides the relationship with the dog.
Right.
So, some people, unfortunately, either they use it as a little toy pet or otherwise as a little ATV.
Right.
Dog is not an ATV.
Right,
It's a
right.
living creature.
Yeah, to draw the analogy with the cars, just because how many people have bought pickup trucks, right? And never put anything in the back.
Right.
So there are a lot
That's
of people,
exactly right.
and I want them all to stay on this journey and keep going.
Right.
But they got their first dog like they got their first truck.
Yes.
They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how
Yes.
much it could carry. They didn't even know how fast it would go yet.
Well, another very important thing when you when you get in a dog is to understand your lifestyle, your situation.
Yeah.
Because most of the time when you are young and you have a lot of different things going in your life, dogs require a lot of dedication, a lot of patience, a lot of time.
Yeah.
And young people, often, they don't have that.
Right.
Number two, it's a dramatic change in lifestyle. It's like to having a young kid.
Right.
It's a very similar situation.
Yeah.
If you ignoring that, then definitely, you're creating situations that sometimes are not workable.
Right. Yeah, it's not a good. But people are impulsive, though.
Yes,
People,
they see it, or they see a friend that got a dog. Oh, I want a dog, and they just get a dog, and
Right.
and in the end, they having this thing that they don't know what to do with that.
Yeah. Let's jump to South Africa because we talked last night a little bit about it. But what was you mentioned the South African field trial.
Yes.
What was the hunting, just the upland hunting like? How did that work? As you weren't a farmer down there. You were
Yes.
in a whole different trade. But how does that work? Somebody that lives in South Africa and is into upland hunting? Because I've yet to hear about it.
Right. So South Africa actually took the hunting, I would say, dog hunting tradition from the European style.
Right.
Dogs that came from Europe, they came from different part of Europe. I would say in the pointer world, they came from England and Italy and Spain.
France a little bit, or not so much?
France, they have their own pointers.
Okay.
I mean, you obviously you get, but no.
But you didn't see that influence in South Africa.
I wouldn't say no.
Right.
And then they came to at that time Rhodesia, and then from there they came to South Africa, and they started this field trial 100 years ago, actually over now, 100 years now, and the criteria of selection was very strict. They compete internationally. They often imported dogs, which is another very important thing,
Yeah.
You have to always get fresh blood to create a stronger breed.
Right.
And that was, in fact, one of the things that in South Africa was done on a regular basis.
Wow.
My dog that you hunt, the mama, the 9 years old,
Right.
the father is from Norway.
Oh, wow.
So he was imported in South Africa from Norway. In fact, Norway has a very good batch of breeders there.
Really?
Yes, yes.
And all
Not
that
e-
snow.
Yes. Funny enough, yes. Yeah.
So the foot hunting, let's say the foot hunting, what would it kind of draw a small picture of, like, say, I'm going to go chase some Franklin's grouse or what,
In South Africa, there are two kind of habitats for upland bird. One is the Cape, when you have the grey wing partridge,
Okay.
or Franklin, whatever you call it. The other one are the farmlands. Farmlands that can extend from, the Transvaal, the Natal province, the Orange province. It's a lot of
corn, wheat.
as
stuff
long
we
as
see.
it's best, which is similar to United States.
Yeah.
In other words, you find birds normally when there's food,
Right.
and food is actually close to farmland.
Right.
So.
And did as everybody has complained here over the years, they farmed, ditch to ditch. They got rid of the ditches and rid of the fence rows. Was it a more rural farming looking area, or did it look like you were in Iowa? I'd love to picture it.
I would say quite extensive fields.
Okay.
Because obviously space was quite available.
Yep.
The birds, for many, many years, they were considered a nonsense from the farmers.
Oh,
they used to even spray poison to kill them.
Really?
Yes. We had, in fact, the doves and pigeons, they were taking up to 30% of the crop. With, there was quite a big substantial loss. So they used to call us and say, hey, come you guys, to the point that even supply shells to shoot them.
Somebody help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The upland birds, they were picking the seeds when they were sowing them. And again, they used to spray poison to kill them.
Wow.
Then, slowly, the upland bird sport became more, number one, visual and obviously sought by people, and they started to earn some money out of that. So they started to change the view that, and this applied even on big game.
Oh, wow.
A kudu, 30, 40 years ago or more, I would say it was worth nothing in South Africa. Actually, it was a nonsense. Today, they sell it, yes, for money. So
Now it's kind of like having a deer lease here.
Correct.
In Iowa, right?
Correct.
Like, hey, I know a good way I can pay for that implement payment this year.
things that completely changed the view on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you could go out on a
So-
Saturday and you'd have to knock on a door, though, right?
Well, yes. South Africa does not have basically any upland public land that you can go and hunt. It's all private land. As I say, a few years ago was extremely accessible because no farmer would actually have any opposition to you to go. Today they charge you some money, I believe, but still, relatively affordable.
Right.
And, the opportunity are definitely great.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how about comparing that little snapshot? Now, California had to be different. You kind of had to always go to the desert, right? There was
basically, yes.
There was, and anything that was ag land in Lower California was strawberries, and there was nothing to.
There are areas where
maybe a
the
dove
fish and
hunting or
game
something.
throw some phase in before the season. There is a kind of thing like that, but
Yeah.
nothing. The wild birds in California are 3 species: chukars, quails, and mountain quails.
Mountain quail.
Mountain quails is an interesting bird. Very hard to chase, but is
that more Northern California or just more mountains?
No,
basically?
I would say more mountains.
Just,
on a foothills kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And going to your dogs, did you? We talked about the pointers that the field trial pointers. They run big.
Yes.
And in this country, I can't remember how many years ago, but I think it was in Pointing Dog Journal. So that was, you'd have been here. but you were probably in California, and the back page was like the editor wrote the page, and he was always picking on pointers, but he was a setter guy, and the inference was always, they're too far, and they got that from that field trial thing. Do you think because your dog you imported came from a field trial line, do you think you altered it? Or do you think she altered hers? In other words, do you think she adapted to you and how you hunted, or did you have to work her in and work her in? Because you can always work a dog in, is the old saying. You just can't make them go further.
I would say it's there are a lot of things coming in at that point. Definitely, I think it was a little bit of a shot of luck that my male dog and the female that I imported also, they were both very interactive and very clever dogs. They were very intelligent dogs. Yeah. And this was creating immediately a very easy base. Yeah. For instance, when I train my dogs with the others, the older ones that I had, they immediately pick up the whoa, they pick up all the commands from the older ones right away, which was a great advantage. I don't have to impose anything to these dogs.
I want to touch on that. You'll hear people say one dog can't teach another something, but if you have a new dog, a new puppy, right, and you went over to his mama and you said sit and gave him a treat, the puppy's going to learn.
Well, not only the sit, it's a basic command, but you can do with the mama, you can do the whoa, you can do the direction, you can do a lot of stuff, and the pups picks it up. My dogs pick it up, all of that. Yeah. All of that. So that was a great advantage.
So what's your formal training look like? I mean, we're not.
I start with the basic.
Yeah, just come when called.
Yes,
sit, stay, whoa.
I stress that the basics are very, very important. I think because if you jump that, right, you're already now in uncharted territory.
You've always got that hole there.
Correct.
So, and this, I don't mean it for every dog, but you had 3 different dogs out there, 3 different ages.
Yes.
Did you follow a pattern with those, or did you still just a pattern, but it was? He's not ready for this, so I'm not going to take him out yet. Because it's rare that people take out 3 dogs at once. But they're kind of a team.
It is a challenge. It is a challenge.
I've had that many dogs, and I might have trusted 2 of them.
Well, you see.
They didn't fight for the bird. They didn't pull it out of each other's mouths. They wanted to get on and find their own bird, but then. I mean,
this is definitely.
How much is luck and how much is love?
To tell you that, I got to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a lot of luck. In other words, my dogs are extremely receptive, and they are naturally, very interactive. They understand exactly the city. I mean, yes, it is very difficult to put 3 dogs together.
Right.
Very
There's
difficult.
always some shenanigans.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I knew because you came here and I just wanted to impress you. Said, I want to show this guy what's going on here. I knew that this would work because,
Yeah, here's what I was waiting for. 3 dogs, and it was a big field. And you're going to go, all right, someone's got to be over on that side of the road.
Right.
Somebody, and
I tell you, another thing, we had a lot of birds planted.
Yes.
Which makes it even worse because obviously there is a lot of smell all over. Dogs. But, I know my babies, and I know that I could have done it because, as the other thing that is very important, is very natural for the dog, is to honoring other dogs.
Yeah.
Not all the dogs that do that. Sometimes they honor, but they do it against their nature or their will, and it's not easy. It's something that comes natural, like pointing.
Sure.
You cannot teach pointing. It's either there or it's not there.
Right. That is an inherited instinct.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
And also honoring, it's another thing. Honoring is a strong feeling of pointing the bird.
It's an extension of a strong point.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. It's almost like, I like analogies with children and beautiful women. Yeah. So pointing is like somebody's staring at a Hollywood star walking by, and then you staring. You're kind of backing him. You're kind of honoring him, but you're really both got the same thing on your mind.
Exactly.
Only he can smell their perfume, but you can't.
Right.
But that
right.
dog's like,
Yep.
no. And I mean, if there's a breed that I've seen it much more consistent would be pointers. Somewhat in German short hairs, somewhat in English pointer or English setters for sure.
Yes.
I've seen a lot of natural backing.
Yes.
I can tell you where I've never seen it. It's in my Broncos. Zero. Zero natural back.
That's the other thing. Pointing is obviously it's an instinct of certain breeds, but it works more in some breeds and less in other breeds.
Right.
And when you mention, for instance, Braco or the German Shorthair, those dogs, they're being created for a versatile activity, not only pointing. They were just
Tracking, blood work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they do it,
Right.
but it's not like,
It's like a specialized surgeon.
Right.
Like the pointer's a specialist. Yeah.
Pointer that's what he does.
Yeah. If you
So-
get a
and
pointer,
setters, I would say.
yeah.
Because
If you got a pointer puppy and it didn't point, you'd be shocked, right?
Right.
Now, it might not listen to you. It might not be an intelligent dog.
Right.
It might be owly. I had one friend of mine. He had mini pointers. He had one of them that was as mean as one of my wire hairs. I mean, I don't know what his problem was, but he was not a friendly dog.
Unfortunately. But, at the moment, for instance, I had 8 puppies, which in fact are now the old 5. And all of the puppies, all of them, they, you go out with a little quail wing and they point, all of them, and they becking. Right. They're already backing each other.
They come out of a little puppy door and say, "Oop, something's going on."
No, they see, they smell. In fact, what I do, I throw the wing in a way that they don't see it. I want them to point on smell.
Yeah, because typically when you just do this, that's sight pointing.
A sight point, which is not good. In other words, you can start in the very, very beginning, but immediately after you have to go to the stimulation to the dog to look for what he does, not looking, not watching.
It's got to connect.
Correct.
Through the
because then you understand the nose, you understand, and you stimulate the brain.
Yeah, because when you were saying wing, I was like, oh, I kind of cringed a little bit because if all you do is that,
you
queen's
distract them and then you push it back, and then you go back on a wing. You have to learn, and obviously. That there is a win, you have to conduce them to the point that the win becomes
it's
obviously.
It's not easy, but you get it. Once you've done it a few times, you get it. Because just the simple sight on the wing, I think the Queen's Corgis would stop. I mean,
exactly.
If you kept popping it, pretty soon they'd say, you know what? If I sneak up on it, and then somebody go, oh, he's pointing. Well, he's sight pointing. He's not.
Yeah.
But you do like to mess with the wing. You just get it to where they're interested in finding it, wanting it, and then it's kind of hidden.
Correct.
First person I know that messed with the wing and did that.
Yeah. You have to distract them, and then you actually throw the wing in a way that they don't see it. At that point, you turn around, and the little pup, they start to look, and then they go on the smell, and then they point the wing. And that's what you want. And then from the wing, a little live quail.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
How old, I talked about this when we were walking today. And I said, with Tagus, I think I'm paying a little bit of a price. Partly because of his age. He was just too young to expect a good season out of, and I didn't want anything to happen to him. And then we had winter in Michigan. So he literally has not had many bird contacts. I would have probably had bird contacts at 4 or 5 months or 3 or 4 months. But you like early bird contact, right?
Once again,
you mentioned
it's
that.
The activity on a dog, it's again very much related to his personality.
Yeah.
The present dog that I have now, when I had the father of the pups, he was 6 months old. I won a competition in California against 60 dogs.
6 months old.
6 months old. Yeah. Now, sometime a male dog start hunting only when actually goes over here. some good dogs that I had in the past, they only start hunting in a later stage of their life. So it's a very much a wild card.
Right.
The family genealogy, obviously, it's extremely important in that, because if you have good parents, you have a good chance. But even that, sometime in a litter, you have one or two, they are chronically gun shy or bad. So it's can happen.
Yeah.
But I am on the idea that you have to start very young.
Yeah.
You don't have to push too much, but you have to start very young.
But don't set expectations.
Of course.
But give them.
Yes.
Give them. See, that goes against my Playboy magazine analogy. See, I always ask people, did your dad put out a Playboy magazine so when you were 6? Or was he pretty sure you were going to like it when you were 13? Okay?
Well.
So sometimes I think, and I guess this comes probably from years of judging. We'll see a dog that, I really like this dog, but then it just won't stop for the point. And this owner's seen it point in the past, but they're getting ready for a test, and they feel like they have to do more, and they gave it too many opportunities to get into trouble.
Right.
And then if you're using, unfortunately, most cases, pen-raised birds, and there's a reward at the end, because a puppy's not steady to whoa yet or anything like that. You're not going to shock them for chasing a bird.
Of course.
So I think people have gotten themselves in trouble with birds too early sometimes. But again, you have to be able to read your dog there too.
It's a very flexible game.
Yeah.
In other words, if you see that the dog progresses good, you can push.
Yeah.
If you see your dog does not progress good, you have to stop and probably go back to consolidate what you had before.
Yeah.
So it's like an individual in the in the
It's
study
like being
career.
a good teacher. You got to be able to read your students.
Passion is the secret of this game, anyway.
Yeah.
If you lose passion, you destroy all your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do any training for people or anything, or have you just always been? You're very active in a lot of stuff, and I hear you want to talk about. I heard you talk to me about wanting to get more of a training group going here. Do you have a little background in that, or is it just that you want these folks around here to have as much fun as you do?
We got two things here. I came to Brays, which in my opinion is paradise for a guy that loves what I do.
Right.
Because we have the amenities, we have the space.
Right.
We have, everything that...
Everything you could use.
Right. Now, what we do here, we have a great trainer, Scott Miller, that is an internationally recognized trainer that actually, works permanently with us.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott trains several dogs for owners and the plantation dogs.
Okay.
But now my idea is to collaborate with Scott and to get Scott with me and probably obviously people that wanted to join to teach people to interact with their own dog. Because sometimes what happens is that Scott trained the dog. Dog is doing with him exactly what was supposed to do, and then when the owner comes and take it to the field, the whole thing disintegrates.
Yes, it does.
And why? Because unfortunately the interaction is completely different. So what I wanted to do is to teach people to train their own dogs, to put different dogs together in the field, because that's the other very important thing. Your dog can do extremely well by itself.
Right.
The moment I put another dog with him, he loses completely.
It could be competition. It could be
a lot of
like
stuff.
each other.
Correct.
It could be anything.
So in order to correct that, you have to put him together with other dogs, and then slowly try to understand what is wrong and what and try to help him to correct. And I think it's a lot to do in that field.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like it would be. I would think it would be well received.
Yes, talking to a lot of our owners, friends here, there is a lot of interest.
Right.
We have to now put together a program and obviously allocate timing. And you have to bear in mind that here, when the season ends by the middle of March, the weather starts to warm up
Yeah. So there's-
dramatically. So you will have probably 1 or 2 hours maximum in the morning, and not always.
even the evening might be just still too hot.
It's still too hot.
Right.
And, we have to work around that.
Sure.
But nevertheless, it is doable and could be also a way to keep your dog active during many months. Otherwise, this dog becomes, just completely inactive.
I'll share some stuff with you when we're done. I almost need a diagram to show you, but I talked to you a little bit about it last night. And when it's hot out in Michigan and humid, no one's out running in the field because, dog could die in 20 minutes on a hot day. But, unless somebody's been conditioning for it. But there's a lot of stuff you can do in just a decent-sized little training field.
Absolutely.
And you can have barrels of water. You can get around it, and you can do it. You can work with your dog 12 months a year if you want to.
Exactly. There is a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously running in the field on a big field is one thing.
Right.
But you can do in small fields, you can reinforce a lot the basic commands. One other thing is retrieving, for instance. Retrieving is one of the critical things.
Yeah.
You can do retrieving on a spontaneous way. You can do retrieving on a forcible way. And again, retrieving is something that you have to continuously, repeat and doing. There is one philosophy that I always wanted to stress to everybody is that even if your dog is fully trained, even if your dog is a mature dog, it needs to be trained on a regular basis because it's going to lose it.
No.
You have to continuously repeat, reinforce, and practice again. Because if you don't do that, dogs that tend to, I wouldn't call it forget, but definitely ignore it. So it is something that you have to do. So this classes or seminars, whatever you want to call it.
For a higher level of obedience, you have a pretty good baseline of obedience because they're always going to slip back a little bit.
Yes.
Even if you're a diligent trainer. If dog had his druthers, he'd say, you know what, I don't really. You're like, no, yes, you do. It's just like being raised when your dad said mow the grass or pick the grapes or whatever.
Yeah. Suddenly.
Something we only touched on when you were showing me around today, and we drove all over the place. And like I said, if my wife comes back, you might have a new neighbor. I'm not going to complain, but you might.
It's a possibility,
But the food aspect of it. How long has that been? Because you mentioned to me when we were leaving your house that you said when you come back, I'll cook for you. Is this something you carried? Is this a what do they call that? Late onset cooking, or have you always?
Cooking, I think it's like hunting.
Okay.
You be born with a passion or not.
Okay.
Sometime for necessity, you becoming a cook because nobody cooks for you otherwise.
Yeah.
But it is a way to communicate.
There's a lot of guys that are not interested in it.
Right. And basically, in my opinion, cooking has to be seen as a way to enjoy things together, to communicate with people, to exchange experience. It's a very important part of life, eating,
sure.
And you have to make it, something that is enjoyable, that is, fun to do it. Otherwise, if it's not only a basic necessity. So, yes, I cook obviously for passion, and I'm an Italian background because I'm Italian, of course,
yes.
I have certain secret recipe that seems to be very successful. Yeah.
Did you say you made your own olive oil too? Or
My
was that what your
family, we
did?
used to have an olive farm in Italy. We used to have a meal together with the farm. And when I came to the United States, then I purchased a spread in Montecito, California. And I planted, at that time, 75 olive trees. And those trees that became pretty big during the years, and they started to produce oil. And for many years, I had my own olive oil on the table.
Did you really?
Yes.
Is that climate kind of close to Italy then? Is that what it was?
Well,
or can you
the
do
olive
that?
tree is a very resilient tree.
Okay.
can live in a lot of different conditions. But here, for instance, in a low country, it's not the right situation.
But California was okay.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Actually, the quality of the oil. We have obviously Spanish, Italian, and another trees there, but overall the quality is really good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
But you make your own. I think that's kind of.
Yeah.
That's going a little above and beyond.
Well,
above and beyond.
basically we were cropping the olives,
right,
and take it to a mill that was only probably 30 miles away.
Yeah.
And these people, they have the great Italian machinery to crush them, to extract the oil, and they give it to you right away.
So you just kind of drop that off, and then
You're arriving with your truck full of olives, and you're coming back with your truck with olive oil. Yeah.
Just that simple.
That's exactly right.
I want to get into olive oil now, but I want to get back to. I've never heard this name. I always think when people have a kennel name, that I'm like, yeah, I've heard of 3 of those, like something Creek but Windmasters.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one before.
Well,
Windmasters.
I'll tell you why. Because when I start hunting, even this morning, I normally take with me a little talcum powder.
No, I've seen people do that. Yep.
Right. Because
That's
hunting
why I
with
light a
dogs,
cigar.
it's exactly like sailing.
Okay.
In other words, if you want to really have the best result, you have to work with the wind.
Sure.
Pointing dogs, all dogs, I would say, but especially pointing dogs. In other words, dogs, they head up, okay?
Yeah.
They work on wind. And if you help them to position all the time or to turn around in the right position, you actually have the best result.
Sure. Instead of just being oblivious to.
So the name Windmasters, because they're playing with wind.
And where did you feel like you started? I know for a fact, Domenico, that when I started hunting in Illinois, I never checked it. Okay.
Well,
'cause I'm telling you, I saw brown grass, and I said, "Let's go walk in it." I never like. How long have you been thinking about the wind? Because that like something.
You have to remember that
I know your dad didn't teach you.
I started, to hunt a lot of big game in South Africa.
Okay.
And when you hunt big game,
sure.
wind is everything. I mean, otherwise you just waste your time. You just go and watch television.
They don't jump up and fly for a 12 gauge. No.
So the wind story goes back to, funny enough, it works on fishing too. But I'm not as good fisherman as a hunter anyways. But yes, so to use the wind at your advantage or the advantage of the dog, I think is a very.
And so, as with big game, it's like it's always there, right? You're always thinking the wind.
Obviously,
like, all of a sudden, even if you were glassing something and you felt the wind come across you, like, well, we better not go that way because it's gonna.
Right. And the same thing with the dogs.
Sure.
You saw it today. When I see that the wing is wrong, what I'm going to do, I say, okay, I know that probably it's not going to be an immediate situation until they turn around and they get the wind.
Right.
Because it's everything. The wind, I mean, if you have the wrong wind, you can have the best dog in the world. He's got to go right into it. Otherwise, he's not going to smell it. So.
And one thing I liked when we were hunting today, you use the term "watch it, watch it, watch it."
Yes, this is my. This is my word. This is definitely my word.
That is your word.
Yes.
Okay. Because we're out there and one of the dogs is on point.
Yes.
And you're like, "Watch it, watch it." And the first time I heard it, I'm like, "Don't worry, I don't even have the gun. I don't even have the gun closed yet." And I'm like, "Oh, he's kind of calling the troops in."
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And in some of that taller grass. It's just your way of saying, like, it's almost like easy.
Put attention. Put attention because you got one of the dog is pointing.
Right.
Put attention, and then
The beauty is they'll do it on their own when they see them, but you're letting them know ahead of time. Watch it, watch it.
Well, they listen the word,
But
they
get
understand,
used to you
and
saying
immediately
it.
they get on alert.
Yeah. Because the dog's happy pointing another dog.
Correct.
He's pointing a bird.
Correct. Yeah. That's my little off the book.
I'm going to remember it.
Watch
Watch it.
See, this is something.
And we heard that a lot today.
Well, because
we found a lot of birds.
We find a lot of birds,
right.
yeah.
My shooting was, I'm going to excuse my shooting. I got this old 12 gauge, 2.5 inch London gun, and my buddy Bill gave me some shells for it. I've never pulled the trigger. So that was my excuse in the beginning.
Okay.
And then it was the sunshine.
Yeah.
But it was,
and then what else?
I couldn't figure out a way to blame your dogs.
Well,
let's see. Yeah, you were in the way all the time. That's right. No, it was very enjoyable.
thank you.
When and I'm sure I've heard you say you're willing to fly and go to check places out, which you can't always fly with you. You come in, Paul. You're up next. We got our next victim coming in here. I'm sure you'd fly and hunt without your dogs if it was for the experience and the friendship, but you typically have your dogs with you.
Yeah, for me, I would say 97% of the whole game is to hunt with my dog.
Your dogs,
now,
right.
I mean, there are very interesting hunts sometimes that worth to do without it, of course. But if I have to move and spend days and hunt upland games, I really would like to do it with my dogs.
Right.
Also because, and this is, sometimes I get frustrated to see other dogs that don't do as well.
Well, I get that. And for me, I mean, I'd say if I'm taking time off of work or family, I want to be hunting with my dogs. But because I've judged dogs for like 25 years, it was very normal for me to leave on a Friday and judge dogs for 2 days and get to walk with people for 20 minutes or 25 or 30, depending on what it was. So leaving my dogs at home is not,
So traumatic.
In German, it would be verboten. What would it be in Italian?
Proibito.
Probito.
Esatto.
So it is not probito that I have my dogs with me. For you, it is probito.
All right, now that you say that, you judge. What's your judgment on my dog?
Your dogs, I'd say we go on a 4, a scale of 4. Okay. I'd say search is a 4, nose is a 4, desire is a 4. The only knock I would have is the retrieving.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, they done it, but not
they get the job done.
Yes, they get the job done, but not.
We're going to drop you to a 2.
And I knew that. I knew that. That's why I was very happy when you missed the bird.
That's fantastic. It's so funny. You're thinking I'm thinking of things, and every time I see you, here's what killed me. When you can get them in, when I thought they did their best retrieving is when it was a far away.
Right.
And they saw the bird go down, and they get it. If we're 90 yards away from them, they got it back to 87 and a half yards.
7.5, yes, I know.
And they put it down, and you give them one more call, and they bring in another half yard.
Exactly.
And then they drop it out, and you say, good girl. So I'm like, well, they learned that from you a little bit.
Yes, I'm indulging a little bit in that, I would say, yes.
I would say just a hold and carry part of the trained retrieve.
Right.
You wouldn't even need the ear pinch.
Yeah.
Just teach them when they're holding it.
Yes.
I bet you it wouldn't take you long.
There is a little thing that I have to say. When there are 3 of them, obviously that induces a little bit of cutting short kind of thing, because obviously, there's a lot of action. When you are 1-to-1,
it's a better.
The retrieve becomes much better.
A couple times it was right to the foot.
Correct.
We call that
if it would be
retrieve.
one dog each, I would be, having
and you
much
could
better.
Concentrate on them
because you are 1-to-1,
Yeah. Well, Domenico, this has been a hoot, and I warned you. You invited me back. I'm going to bring my wife.
Yes.
I'm going to see Savannah.
Absolutely.
I'm going to see a little bit. I'm going to get to shoot the sporting clays sometime.
Absolutely.
Maybe with this character over here coming up next, because I've got some gun questions. You guys got into a gun discussion last night, and I thought, wait a minute, are they all speaking Italian?
We almost got into a fight, by the way.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
It's
been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.
Well, next time you see me, it won't be probably season here, but I'll have one of my dogs at least ready for exercise in the field. Or I'll bring one of my Bracco.
Right. And but definitely we will stay in touch, because it's been a pleasure. Now I discovered that you have a great podcast, and I think it's a great addition to the,
and when I can meet, and I know you agree, and everybody agrees, something about the upland and the dog. And it's obviously people say it's the dogs. It's the dogs. But to me, it's just the people.
It's a spirit behind it,
the people
of
who
course.
love the dogs
Absolutely.
are the people who are going to like the people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you.